The Marine Corps. Actually, I joined the Marine Corps because I used to be in the Drum and Bugle Corps, and when that disbanded, my friends and I went to the Marine Corps band in the reserve outfit in the neighborhood. And so I became a glockenspiel player in the Marine Corps band. Well, after I finished boot camp, I was assigned to an artillery outfit. I was trained in communications. I went to a school in San Diego for about 3 or 4 months in training for the communications aspect of it. I was involved in the Korean War, but I was not in combat. Matter of fact, I was kept in the base I was in because they had me training people. I was a communications man, and one day I was walking back to the communication hut, and the quartermaster hut was just down the road from us, and they had all the stuff in there, including 8 machine guns, and they were taking them all out. They were cleaning them and oiling them and everything else. When they put them back together, only 2 worked. I'd be walking by. Now, a friend of mine, when I was in the Marine Corps, told me, learn every weapon you can, because if you're in combat and you run out of ammunition and there's a fallen comrade, you better grab his weapon and his ammunition. So, on that basis, I decided, that's what had to be. So anyhow, I was in there, and I was passing by. I made a point to learn all about these other weapons, so I was passing by. My commanding officer says, "Jim, come over here. We've got a problem." He said, "We just took these out of there, we cleaned them, oiled and everything else, only 2 work." So I said, "Oh, that's simple. Give me a screwdriver, I'll show you what's wrong." There's a piece in there that's called a cocking lever, and it's like an elongated teardrop. But the only thing is the hole in it is not dead center in the bottom of the drop, it's offset. If you put it in backwards, it doesn't work. So I took the thing apart, I just pulled the pin out, turned it around, put it back in, and everything worked. So now my commanding officer now made me a weapons instructor. Because I knew all this, I had all this information, so nobody else did, but I did. So that's what I was. I was instructor on weapons and teaching people how all these little tricks that that most of them didn't know. I was also a communications instructor because I was a lineman and a splicer, a telephone man, a switchboard operator, whatever it had to do with communications. And so under the circumstances, I did a lot of that too. And I was instructing people, new people, in the art of how to splice and all that kind of stuff, and how to run wire and things like that. The other thing too was he also had me. We had an obstacle course there that we had for our unit. And when anybody new came in, he also gave me the job of having to take them through the obstacle course and teach them how to run it. So so you had to. Most people, they had like logs and stuff like that. This was built out of tree tricks and stuff like that. So there was a low one and a high one. You had to go under the low one and over the high one. Most people wanted to do it the opposite way, but so you had to make sure everybody did it right. And I was taking all the new people that were coming in and running them through the obstacle course and training them in the physical fitness and everything else. Swinging over a river on a rope, and we had had a hut there too. And the object was to run and dive through the window, go into a roll, and come up standing on your feet and keep on going. Mm-hmm. So these are the things I had to teach all the new kids coming in. So. I carried a radio. Because I was in the artillery, I carried a radio, a 69-pound radio actually. The infantry had a 29-pound radio, I don't know why, but we had to transmit further because our cannons could fire a distance of 7 miles. I didn't have any problem with the training and everything else I had, but the only thing was that sometimes we lost people in training, and that was the saddest part of all. And you see, I still have visions of that. There's 2 items that in my mind that I have that's still lingering in my head. One was we were on a training mission, and we were actually you go out sometimes for a month, just on a training thing, living off the land and whatever else. I think Camp Lejeune takes half of North Carolina, but and so we were out there in the field, and it was all of a sudden there was some shells falling in the area where it was occupied by the Marines. It seems that they had some old mortar shells that had been laying around for so long that the powder in them got caked up. And instead of exploding like it's supposed to, it burned more like a fuse, and they were falling short of their target. They were landing in an area that was occupied by the Marines. So I was sitting at the switchboard that day, and I saw all these shells falling, and we ended up with, I think, 45 men hospitalized, and we had about 19 dead at the end of the day. So, but I was on the switchboard, and I'm trying to call rear echelon to get someone to have them cease fire. And I found that very frustrating because I couldn't get anybody immediately or directly. So I was going crazy trying to get in touch with someone as I'm seeing all these shells falling in among our people. So that was the biggest problem I had with that. And it sticks in my head. Another time we were in training, and we were on amphibious training, and we were on board an LST. This is one of these ships where the valve opens and the thing comes down. Mm-hmm. And they have these floating tanks pretty much, you might call it that. They sit very low in the water though. And so we were there, and I was in the second, I was supposed to go in the first one. They decided my crew would go in the second one. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't be here today, but what happened was they had the crew in the first one. And as they were going off the ramp there was a swell in the ocean and water, and as the front of the ship lifted up, as they were going down, all of a sudden, off the ramp, all of a sudden they went like this. They tilted up the back, and the thing went straight down, with 10 men in it. And it went to the bottom of the bottom there, about 60 feet deep. Wow. That would never recovered, as far as I know. So I was in the second one, and the officer that was there turned around and told me that we had to close the hatches. Well, I said, we're not closing the hatches. I said, I just saw them. 10 men go to their death. I said, I'm not closing the hatches, because I was in charge of this crew that I had with me. And so I was the spokesman for it, so I argued with him, and he said, I'm going to have you court-martialed. I said, oh, fine. I get out of the thing, I stood next to him, at least I'll be alive. So, and with that, he looked at me, and he said, get in there, okay. He said, we're wasting time. Get in there, he said, go down the ramp, he said, and after you get into the water and you're afloat, then close the hatch. That's what we did. So, well, I was trained in communications. So I got out of the Marine Corps. I found out the telephone company was looking for people, and I went down there. I went down to the telephone company, and I was about 23 years old. But I looked like I was 18. So I went down to the telephone company, and the guy said to me, we're not hiring. I said, well, I heard you were. So he said, no, he's not hiring. So I said, look, I just got out of the Marine Corps. I have 3 years experience as a military lineman. I said, and all this stuff. He said, you have papers that show this? I said, yeah, I got all the papers here. So he thought, I thought you were in high school. So that's what happened. So, but anyhow, I got hired from the phone company. I passed the test, and then he told me, if you come back tomorrow, you've passed the physical, you can start next Monday. I spent 40 years in a telephone company. I don't think so. It's very difficult because the person that's writing it was not there. And when you see, like when you see people being killed or maimed and things like that, it's hard to describe it. You have a vision in your head, but it's hard to describe it to someone that's finding information and put it in writing. So the emotion is lost in the writing. Not anymore. I did when I was working in the phone company. A lot of the people that I served with came out of the Marine Corps at the same time I did, and so I said the phone company was hiring at that time. So a good many of them ended up working for the phone company because it was available employment, and most of us had some kind of a connection into communication. So I had a bunch in there, but not anymore. I don't have the. We kind of lost track as we got older, and people retired and they're moving out of the area and things like that. But.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, you invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me and the card attached. you through.